Hey, the podcast Rabbits is part of a larger fictional universe created by Terry Miles. Spoiler alert, if you have not listened to the first season of Rabbits by Terry Miles, it would be preferable for you to go listen to those 10 episodes first. The Rabbits ARG, alternate reality game, involves finding patterns in the real world that are said to reveal the true nature of reality. In 1959, the modern iteration of the game began. This was retroactively labeled I, or 1. Since then, versions of the game have been labeled with Roman numerals. There have been 9 iterations of the game since then, and the 9th is supposedly running now. It was in 1959 that the term rabbits was first used, a reference to a picture of a rabbit on a poster stating the rules of the game. Hey, welcome to Game Layer, where we explore the science of play and the quest of learning. I am your host, David Colmer. Theme music by Caleb Willits. Welcome down to Game Layer.
I play piano.
I play chess.
I play everything.
I play games of my own invention.
I'd like to move to the domain of play.
If you listen to episode 7 in Game Layer of season 1, you will have heard Benjamin Gardner talking about 2 podcasts. One of them is TANIS by Terry Miles, and the other one is Rabbits. Now, I started listening to these podcasts maybe a couple weeks after he mentioned that, and TANIS was good, but I became addicted to Rabbits. I could not stop listening to Rabbits. I started to send it to all my friends. They started to have concerns. I'm just kidding, they're not concerned, but they should be concerned because I'm legitimately addicted to the show Rabbits. What happened is, do you know how when you get a new CD, like you discover a new band, one of them for me was Radiohead, and then you just get that album, OK Computer, and you listen to nothing but that album. You listen to nothing but that album for an entire year. That is what happened to me with Rabbits. Anyone who I thought would enjoy the show, I shared it with them. One of those people was Jonathan Peters, PhD. I've had him on the show. He was on episode 2, and he talked about motivation. He's certified in the Reese Motivation Profile. So when I mentioned to him off chance last weekend, hey, you want to just talk about season 1 of Rabbits? He just said yes, and just started sending me links to all the research that he had already done on the show, things he had connected. I want to say before we get any further that this episode is riddled with spoilers. So here's your spoiler alert. If you have not listened to the first season of Rabbits by Terry Miles, it would be preferable for you to go listen to those 10 episodes first. Or you don't have to. It's up to you. If you want to listen to this first and then go listen to the first 10 episodes of Rabbits, that's on you. I will point out that this is going to be a multi-episode event. We're going to keep talking about Rabbits on Game Layer for I don't know how many episodes. We'll see what happens. But there's a good chance that it's going to keep going. And here we have Jonathan online. Hey, Jonathan, how's it going?
Good.
The Rabbits ARG, alternate reality game, involves finding patterns in the world that are said to reveal the true nature of reality. In 1959, the modern iteration of the game began. This was retroactively labeled as the Roman numeral 1, I, or 1. Since then, versions of the game have been labeled with Roman numerals. There have been 9 iterations of the game since then, and the 9th is supposedly running now. It was in 1959 that the term rabbits was first used, a reference to picture of rabbit on a poster stating that the rules of the game.
The rules of the game. You play, you never tell. Find the doors, portals, points, and well. You play, you never tell. Step through the gates of life and hell. You play, you never tell. The wardens watch and guard us well. You play and pray, you never tell.
Game Layer Radio is brought to you by
Bitty Denowitz.
Can we talk about Rabbits by Terry Miles? Maybe season 1-ish?
We could talk about rabbits.
Are you sure?
I mean, we can. I don't know that we should.
Yeah.
They might be listening.
Play the game, but don't tell. You know, in the show, I like how Terry Miles, who wrote it, created this thing called the Public Radio Alliance. So it's a company that I think he just made up, and he connects all of his different shows together. And I brought that up to you. You said, "Oh, that's such good storytelling." Why is that good storytelling?
Well, for one thing, it's like real life, right? Because everything is connected to something else. So nothing in the Public Radio Alliance lives on an island unto itself. Somehow Rabbits is connected to, what's the other one called?
TANIS.
Yeah, TANIS. So they'll all be connected, which is a couple of things. One, it ensures that people will keep listening to all of them, just like spinoffs get most of the same people that love the original show.
Better Call Saul, right?
Absolutely. And then also it will get people to listen a second time and a third time, because when they do go to that spinoff, suddenly they're going to realize something from the first one, and then they're going to go back and they're going to listen to it again because they want to make the connections in their brain. And that's awesome. That's that character building. And so that's what I really like bringing this back about this, is because TANIS might build a whole new set of characters, but somewhere in there's a connection to Rabbits. And once you hear it and you find it, there's probably multiple, but at least one.
There are.
Then you're going to be like, oh shit, I got to go back to Rabbits and listen to this again, so that you can make those connections in your brain.
Betty is
I texted you and I was like, is this real? Because it feels it kind of feels real.
That's the question.
Which just marks it as such amazing storytelling if you are questioning reality.
In the show, there's so many things in it that are real, but metaphysical. Like, they start talking about ley lines or these conspiracy theories.
Well, there's a reason.
But all of a sudden you can't really tell. Like, you're trying to separate fact from fiction, and it becomes more and more difficult.
It does. And that's why I like it so much. Are you going to tell these poor people what Rabbits is even about? They think we'd listen to a show about bunny rabbits.
Wow, Betty, this is great. I'm sure our listener will find this very helpful. And I would advise everyone to go to ifyouaskbetty.com to learn more about it.
Game Layer. Partially recovered recording by the game theorist Dr. Abigail Prescott reveals that the game is highly secretive and that it has a fluid nature. So I wanted to read that as an opener. That's content directly from the podcast known as Rabbits. And I have Jonathan Peters here to discuss. Jonathan, I shared Rabbits with you, and it seems that maybe you listened to the whole first season in about a day.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
I was working, in the garage, something for the house for a project. And so I was like, I might as well start on this thing. Typically when I'm working on a project or exercising, I listen to nonfiction so my brain can get distracted. But I thought, well, let's get through this podcast. Next thing I know, it's like episode 10 is playing.
So it sounds like that's not normal for you. That was kind of my second question.
No, I went all the way through.
I'm just kind of curious because the exact same thing happened to me. And I never listened to nonfiction like this, really. What do you think caused you to binge the show so heavily?
Well, first of all, the nature of the mysterious, the otherworldliness of it. And so that was really pulled it in. And then the fantasy of being involved in this type of game too, I think that attracts me. And, not really Ready Player One. Shoot, I was going to look it up before we started this, and I just read a book recently on audio. So of course I can't remember what it was, but it was a fiction about a game similar experience to this. But Rabbits was way better and way more interesting and engaging.
Yeah, I kind of liked how it portrayed a sort of connection to the universe, or it was a key to unlock the universe.
Yeah, that aspect of our reality is not real type thing. So and what was also cool, it's not so weird. It's not really, it is kind of Twilight Zone-y-ish. Yeah. I
think it gets there. It doesn't start there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It waits till the end for that Hitchcock twist where you're not really sure what's what.
Definitely.
So in episode 2, we have Concernicus Jones comes on the screen, I guess, or on the scene, not on the screen.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of neat the way he introduced himself as Concernicus Jones. And then when she said, oh, Concernicus Jones, and then he's like, well, it doesn't sound nearly as cool when you say it out loud.
Yeah, that was great.
There's just kind of like this sense of not taking itself too seriously, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of the science fiction stuff kind of gets like, oh, we're in space. And it's just like a little bit too far-fetched.
Yeah.
I feel like the
this
characters kept it kind of grounded.
Yeah, it's that piece that you wish if you were writing a novel you would come up with, that you get this outlandish character name. It doesn't sound so cool.
Yeah.
Good.
The next episode, she's looking for Yumiko. And I wanted to ask you about the video. There was a video that Yumiko watches, and it seems like it loops, right? It's a video that never ends, but that's not really possible.
And she watches it forever. I think from what would it be? It's from a stylistic point. What they're working toward is really creates that unease. So the idea was that she's watching it for days. So that really taps in, for me, it really tapped into that kind of horror genre for just a moment. Because the rest of the podcast really isn't necessarily horror, but that idea that you just sit there. She comes in, her friend's been sitting for 2 days and she's peed herself and so on. So but it's that there is that genre inside of horror that you're pulled into something.
Yeah, and it's like kind of compulsive. And it made me think of the Japanese movie, that Ringu or The Ring.
Yeah.
Had you seen that at all?
No, it's too scary.
I watched it. It terrified me. Yeah. You watch a video and then you're cursed. And then the woman's going to crawl out of a television set in 7 days and capture your soul. Yeah. So that was, to me, it really tapped into that horror. But somehow this podcast didn't frighten me at all, whereas a lot of haunting sort of stories always seem to kind of frighten me. Yeah. I think I was just too engaged or too compelled.
Well, and then a lot of these are making references to other things. And so that's an example where obviously they're representing, they're like, oh, this is like, well,
radio is brought to you by Dirt.
Just
because it's dirty
because
doesn't
it's
mean
that
you
way throughout.
can't
And that
love
was the
it.
other cool thing
Plants like
that I missed
and
by
white oak
just
trees
binging it
grow
while I'm
out of
working
dirt,
is then
according
later
to
to go back
leading
and start to look
scientists.
stuff up.
Research also
And,
shows that dirt
because
is rich
you know
in
it's not a
healthy
real
bacteria
character
that
when they
help
say,
your
I couldn't
biome
find
fight the
anybody who
good
met
fight
the person.
against
So
evil
they're
bugs
basically saying,
by
don't bother
introducing
looking
a
this up.
plethora
But at
of
the
healthy
beginning,
bugs
I wrote
into
it
the
down. It was she
microbiome
mentions
that is
a
you.
guy at Stanford,
With recent estimates
professor at
suggesting
Stanford,
a near
who brought
1-to-1
game theory to
ratio
economics.
of around
So what
30
was his
trillion
name? Robert
human
Wilson.
cells to
So it's a
every
real guy,
38
and you can read his
trillion
work. It's called
bacterial cells
non-cooperative
that
game
make
theory.
up your body.
And so
Don't use
it's
too much
interesting.
soap.
It's not like I read his
Use
papers
dirt.
or anything, but
And when
there's
they
tons
ask,
of these little
say Dirty Dave
references
sent you
throughout,
to
and
get
then
a
I'm sure there's
1%
more that we don't
discount.
know that aren't
Wait, isn't
obvious
dirt
to us.
free?
That if we knew the writer, which is always fun to put little inside jokes when you're writing.
And there's a lot of them. You're right, because I went back in to try and gather some questions for this discussion, and I just sent you a text because I was overwhelmed. There's just so much going on in this show, and I'll share a story with that too.
I got a great one from the last episode when we get there. That I found.
Okay, we're going to do it episode by episode. So we're still on episode 2. But I listened to episode 1 with my son, and he said, Daddy, is this real?
Mm-hmm.
And so I paused heavy on that question because there's just so many elements of truth to this podcast that they weave in so seamlessly, and even building that whole radio network that I don't think exists outside of this guy's work.
Doesn't seem to, no.
Yeah, so he's this master storyteller weaving things that he's created into this story that has real elements. And then, like you said, then there's other characters that are completely fabricated, but they kind of work that into the story that, well, they're playing rabbits, so of course you can't find them.
All right.
You know? So everything just kind of perpetuates the narrative of, no, this is probably happening. I just don't have access to the real deep stuff.
Yeah. Which is good because
it works.
Does, I think from a consumer standpoint, it does create that FOMO because if this game is going on, I don't get to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And that sucks, but
it does suck.
These people are out there if I could catch up.
Yeah, like you said, it's that fantasy of being involved in something so secretive or being, the special person that knows what's going on.
Yeah. To be on
so
the
why
inside.
not connect it to the whole universe, right?
Exactly.
So in episode 3, we have Marigold and Persephone. Carly reaches out to Yumiko's. There's a lead on an obscure underground radio station. And of course, that's interesting to me for obvious reasons, an obscure underground radio station. But I really liked the part with the vintage t-shirt.
Yeah.
You remember that when they have an impossible photograph printed on a vintage shirt?
And is this the first time that we really had where they introduced that time may not be
I think
linear?
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, time's not linear, and it's almost either someone went to like a lot of pain to recreate this image and put it on a torn shirt, or you're right, time is not linear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you listen to the band? What was it? Red Cross?
I didn't listen to it, but I saw a lot of their cover art on the note section.
I wouldn't put it on while I was working last night.
How was it?
It's, I guess techno, probably 90s techno. But that's what I liked about introducing this concept before we even get to the theory, before we get to anything else. It's this impossible picture. And then that creates that mystery as well, that like, wow, what is this? But I want to put a memory tag here for later, because even though she experiences this impossible picture now, she has resistance throughout. The main character has a resistance throughout the rest of this for this kind of dual time thing that's going on. But it was interesting to introduce it here.
And that also builds up the believability. Her skepticism makes it more grounded in the real world. She's not just jumping right into metaphysics or into the paranormal. She's like a jaded New Yorker. She's like, nah, whatever. That's not possible, right?
That's not possible.
Yeah. How is this impossible t-shirt possible? So you really hear her struggle with that, right?
Yeah. Loved it.
Yeah. Really good. So there's also there's another tag there for the outside of time element. And I think it pulls it even further with the idea of a classic modern art. There's a painting that she's always loved. And instead of 2 windows, there's 3 windows.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah. So she's in there. And then again, that adds, I mean, this is, the stuff that's like, oh, that's so cool, but it's so subtle. So it's not obvious painting choices, but it always has 2 windows. This painting has 3. And I forgot about that.
And somehow someone somewhere knew that painting is very significant to her. So it really starts to enter into this concept that it's the universe doing this. It's not necessarily a person or even a thing.
Yeah, it's geared toward her. So she's the only one who would know that this picture is impossible. She's the only one that knows that this work of art is not correct.
And she's the only one knows that it's personally significant to her.
Yeah.
There's really no one else that would know that was important to her in her life.
Yeah, we would see it and we'd be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I wanted to look it up. I'd see if in my timeline if it's 2.
Yeah, I know. And that's where this goes.
We need to go find that picture and see which timeline I'm in.
So now we're wrapping up on episode 3, which was called Marigold and Persephone, and we're moving into episode 4, which is called Dog Lover in Hell. Carly and Jones dig further into the history of the game. A new voice points them in a new direction, and the mysterious Hazel makes another appearance. So we haven't really talked about Hazel yet, right? Hazel is sort of one of the infamous characters that remains elusive, and Hazel was meant to finish the game, right? Or Hazel could have won iteration of 8. Am I correct there?
8, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we know yet. Well, maybe we do in episode 4 that Hazel.
We don't have no idea who
just
Hazel
a clue.
is.
Yeah, but I don't know if we know that Hazel was in 8 yet. But
that's a good point. We might not know yet. Yeah.
Yeah. And this character when we get to the end, it's like, well, it did create like Sixth Sense that now you have to go back and listen to the season once you find out who Hazel is.
Right.
So there is kind of that callback, but as from a literary critic standpoint, it was a little like, when you find out who Hazel was, felt a little manipulative. But
it's really true. Yeah, that was a little lackluster. I agree with that. Yeah.
But it did, regardless of that, I mean, who he is in the story, but they, we're not supposed to know yet. Hazel. And
Right.
that was cool because Hazel you'd think would be a woman. And then throughout, there's all the men have husbands and stuff like that. So it's perfectly acceptable for Hazel to be a woman and have a girlfriend in a couple episodes, or maybe here in this episode, Hazel has a girlfriend. So, I mean, that was a little bit of red herring-ish. So that was cool.
I agree. Yeah, they normalized that. So you're really thinking about, oh, well, anything goes with naming. And then also you have all the players are kind of using gamer handles anyway. Yeah. It's all just a series of code names for code names.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So.
Even Hazel is a code name that's for another code name. That's, you don't even know who their name is. Yeah.
It's good.
Right. So I kind of want to bring up the concept of free will, if you don't mind.
Yeah, perfect.
So in the episode, I'm going to quote Carly. She says, if I'm playing rabbits and I'm not saying that I am, and then she goes on to talk about how she's compelled to play because she has to find Yumiko, but she's not playing. And then it kind of brings up the question. It's like, well, if you're pulling on the thread and you have an interest, and I think in her aspect, she has this power to shift into other multiverses or slip into other versions of reality. Did she ever have a choice to not play? I think to me becomes the question.
Yeah, and that's the resistance I have to a lot of when we start, especially let's say like in quantum physics, or even when we get into the whole spiritual woo-woo side of things, and it's like, well, even if when we get into divination here and in this discussion where everything feels like, well, crap. Well, actually, I guess that's the next season when we get into the cards. Yeah, it's sorry, I'm into season 2. But there's that.
You're fine.
Yeah, that piece where we're being driven by that we don't really have a choice, and that at the end, that's always been my thing, whether right or wrong. If this is all an illusion and all of these things, I'm just a player in a big game or a pawn in something else. Just really, really, really want to hold on to free will. So even if it's fake, I want to believe in it, even if that's a wrong belief. It's one of those that I want to hold on to.
I agree with that. I feel like they play on that a little bit, though, more than once. This idea that, well, they ask people if they're playing. They're like, are you playing? You're not allowed to talk about it if you're playing. Yeah. But then even when she says no, well, okay, so let's say if I do start playing, can I ever stop? And then Joan says, yeah, you can, but you won't, right? He already knows, like, you're going to get a taste of it, and it's going to be so awesome that you're just going to get sucked back in.
Stuck in this lane, yeah. Well, but Hazel chose not to and probably screwed everything up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Guess
there you go.
There's free will in it.
There's an argument for free will right there because Hazel stepped back. Yeah. So what did you think about the magician overall when they went into that? Yeah.
Dog Lovers from Hell, episode 4.
Yeah.
So that was also another impossible time thing. So that was our second. So the whole idea of, I don't remember the artist. It wasn't Monet, was it? But anyway.
I think it was Monet or Monet. Yeah.
Yeah, one of them. And had been dead for hundreds of years before Nazis came along. And so could not have written this thing. And on their website, for if you haven't gone, for the listeners, do look up the Rabbits and go to the Rabbits website. They have the picture there. So it's kind of like, oh, okay. But anyway, another timepiece there. But yeah, when going to the magician, that's when it gets real fun for me as well. So I did a re-listen in anticipation for our time here. And I was like, okay, the first part, the writer setting up the character, setting up the plot, the story, all the usual. And so he's the first character for me that really started to hook me. So this is the whole fantasy of, I guess, essentially Dungeon Master for this piece. So he's that person who's involved, sits back, introduces, doesn't really help at all, but kind of points in the direction, and then being mysterious, and then having the games and so on. So at this point, at the beginning, that there's almost a feeling like he might be the game master. I don't think it's till later we figure out that
100%.
he's just a dungeon master. But when we first meet him, he feels like he might be a little bit more
Part of the circle. I thought he was
Yeah.
part of the circle of winners. Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out he's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, he just knows everything.
He
Yeah.
protects the circle.
Right.
The video games are in his arcade. It's fun.
Yeah, I agree. He was definitely a compelling character and someone you would want to be in the story. There seems to be he is like kind of the best of both worlds, where he knows everything. I actually believe there's no way he's playing the game.
No.
And the fact that he knows everything, that allows him to share information, because it's the whole thing is if you play, you don't tell. And so when I was listening, I was like, why is this guy spilling the beans? Like, why is he talking about everything? Well, he's not breaking the rules because he's not playing. He's just researching and he knows information.
Yeah. Unlike, what's his name? The billionaire later on.
Right. The billionaire later on.
Won't give her things. She has to keep playing the game.
Yeah,
versus
it doesn't work like that.
Doesn't,
They keep saying
magician seems like he doesn't really care if he's got something that he can offer that she can take advantage of and go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, he says that. He's helping people along. And
Yeah.
I guess what I was moving towards is there's a certain level of safety around him. Like he just feels he has the knowledge and he's safe. And he kind of has the best of both.
Well, like I said, the classic the Dungeons and Dragon role, being the dungeon masters there with the rule book, eventually making sure that play stays inside the rails, allowing everybody to go ahead and do what they're going to do. Yeah, and so it's a great role. Yeah, I hadn't really thought through all the way that for him because he's always around, sort of.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, in this season.
And it's a good analogy, I think. Yeah, that's a good analogy as a dungeon master because that's exactly what he's doing. Yeah.
Not a player, not involved. Just the characters. Right. Knows previous winners, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. He had this really high level knowledge too. He said something like an attractor is considered strange if it results in a fractal.
Yeah.
And you had all these ominous statements, and you're like, "Well, this guy's like above my level." I think
that's true. He's the one that's first bringing in the science, bringing in chaos theory.
Yeah, really grandiose statements about chaos theory and string theory. It's like, well,
fractals.
Yeah, I think I missed that class.
Well, it was part of
I don't know how to do that math.
Yeah, when I was working on my dissertation, that's when chaos theory was, and so it was really influential on my studies at the time. Wonder if I have the fractals book still. Might not have survived the moves, but especially at the time, late 90s, fractals and chaos theory was a really big deal. And so I don't know how much it's impacting here a little bit, but it's in the larger plot. There's not, maybe that'll have to spend more time with it. Maybe there's a deep study and dissertation in here.
Yeah.
Thesis, I should say.
No, I'm curious about how it really fits in because, I think I've always been kind of adjacent to the concepts, right? I like the ideas, or I like the art that has been inspired by chaos theory or fractals, but I've never studied it, and I don't feel like I know the ins and outs of it.
I guess it is there that in complex systems, things that appear to be random from a perspective, stepping back, they do tend to follow repeating patterns. So in the moment, it appears random, but when you pull back, then that's where the fractal comes through, is that patterns repeat over time in seemingly or near random events is how the wording that you're supposed to use.
Near random. And then in season 2, they kind of get more into the synchronicity, right? Or the way things it seems like they're relevant, so they might be.
Yeah, but that's more of a season 2 thing. This one's more
about that.
This one's more quantum physics.
I like a lot of the video games that they're bringing up. Had you played a lot of the video games they had mentioned?
Well, that's what's fun about it too, is that they're obscure, like they were around. It's not like they're playing Pac-Man or Galaga.
No,
or
they're playing Defender. And I don't even know what Defender is, and they're talking about Defender 2.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, I remember that. But Defender was like over there in the corner, and that was the weirdos, the goth kid. Well, we didn't have goth kids yet, but
yeah, the version of goth kids.
Yeah,
back in
whatever that was. Pimply faced black, wearing black, and
the
they're the
weirdos.
ones that play Defender. Yeah, the cool
The
games
Black
right
Sabbath
here.
fans.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, perfect.
Taking it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Episode 5 was Priesthood 1. Carly digs into the mysterious Gatewick Institute. Jones finds something interesting in the Marigold recordings, and the magician provides some additional information about the game. So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack with the Gatewick Institute, but I wanted to ask about the Marigold recordings, right? They had these recordings from a long ago that are now referencing things that are happening now.
Yeah. And so, again, starting to line that not fluidity of time, but that time, well, I guess that time's not omnidirectional, that it's overlaying each other. And which is interesting when they're getting into it, because they're not, at least in this season, well, they're starting to get into the whole multi-universe type thing, but they don't quite commit to it. There's even this fake science they introduce later on here. She started to write it down, and I was looking it up, and it turns the Elysian. That's what it is.
Okay,
the Elysian Drift doesn't really exist. It's the name of a rock band. It's another Easter eggs. That's another band that they liked. But that idea that, and maybe it does, and I couldn't find it. Maybe because I keep referencing the dark web, so maybe
you never know.
Maybe the Elysian Drift works over there. Yeah, at bringing in these organizations that their parents worked for, and sort of mysterious and organizations, and who are they? And again, spoiler alert, they don't quite resolve it. Maybe in episode 10. But then you're still not sure what's going on.
Yeah, we're getting into the Gatewick Institute a little bit now.
The Gatewick,
where they were doing very strange psychological research, kind of like the men who stare at goats.
Yeah.
Right? They're experimenting with hallucinogens and thought processes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was fun. Which is another good movie.
That was
to
really
watch.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A strange movie. I will say I enjoyed that movie a lot, but the ending really left me flat. Like it was like a really good build up, and then at the end they just kind of all just like run out of the warehouse, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, wait.
Yeah.
There's no ending.
Yeah. There's no. I forgot about the ending. Yeah.
Maybe there didn't need to be. Maybe that's. I just don't get it yet. I'm not on that wavelength.
Yeah.
But
no, it's one of those. But it feels like they didn't know how to end it. They put all this money and time into it, and then whatever the ending was did not track well with test audiences. That's what I think. That's my theory.
Yeah.
So then
my theory was that all the writers of the movie were part of the hallucinogenic experiment. So like they couldn't really think of an idea because they were all like hallucinating too heavily.
Yeah, they're stuck in it.
They're stuck in a bad trip. They're like, well, I wish I could write an ending to this movie, but too bad I'm tripping balls. Anyway, the reason I brought it up is it's kind of cool because it's always fun when you talk about one of these where, you have people floating in salt water in a chamber and they're on hallucinogens, and then it works. Like something happens. And then we find out later that Haley and Jones are sort of the children. And I'm jumping way ahead here. But their parents were experimenting, right? And then they were the children of the test subjects that something actually happened. So
yeah, which adds an interesting piece that as a writer, I can see, hey, this would be fun to explore, which in the podcast format, 10 episodes, 10, there isn't the space to explore it. And he may in his book, which I've ordered. So
fantastic. Yeah. I'm gonna have to get that as well. So he said that he didn't write the book, that someone else wrote the book, but I feel like that was a pen name. Did you get anywhere on that front?
Oh yeah, I haven't looked that up.
So
I think all
he
of
always
this, I'm
makes a point.
Cousin and all of that reference.
Correct. Yeah. So it's not Terry Miles, it's something Silver. And then I always get the feeling that that's just the same person, but I need to look that up.
Seems like it the way he's running it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel
I'm
like
gonna
he's,
look it up.
because I believe that's a character that's in TANIS or in one of the other podcasts.
Yeah, I always assumed that's what I was
Oh
assuming.
no, it's in Rabbits. It's her contact at the radio station.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought it up if I don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
So we're hovering around episode 6 here of season 1. It's called Strange Attractors. The Marigold recordings appear to reveal the impossible, and we learn something remarkable about Carly's past. So I sort of already dipped into that, talking about how, right, she witnessed what? There was a huge fire, I think it was.
At the swimming pool.
At the swimming pool. And do you want to recount that, or I can? It's such a good
she,
part of the show.
She has this intense memory as a child watching all these people at a public swimming pool, and the lifeguard dumps some sort of fuel on everybody and then lights them up. And then she goes home and she wakes up after she goes to sleep, and nobody else, her parents don't remember it. Her dad's has never taken her to this pool. And so she has a unique memory, or a memory unique to her.
Right.
So that's introducing the slipping. I don't know where they're slipping between. Is the explanation here in this?
No, I think it just it
comes
explores
later.
it. Yeah, it brings it up that she had that event. And it seems like Jones kind of already knows about it, but he's not willing to share the whole picture yet.
Yeah, because he prods her to tell the story, and then he doesn't tell his story. So it's the starting in on this idea of parallel time things and so in the book they call it slipping from one. Is it slipping from one?
I think it's a slip
to the other. So they don't in season 2 they do call it the Mandela effect and Mandela effect, which is popular, and so they're introducing it here. And the way I like it, even though they bring up the Bernstein Bears or whichever which is more obscure in the Mandela.
Very obscure.
Yeah.
No one even knows about it, right? On the whole show, they've never heard of the Bernstein Bears.
Yeah, Bernstein. So
I had to listen to that part twice. I was like, wait, what? I thought I missed something.
The only reason I know about it is because of studying the Mandela effect and, the popular piece of it. I'm not trying to make it sound like I did it from an academic standpoint. But I appreciate that they're doing it, introducing so subtly this idea that just think parallel times, things that are going on, and the idea that certain in this case, kids in trauma have moved over. So the trauma of watching all these families burned just moved her. Their idea is then it moved her to a different timeline where that didn't exist. And so it's an interesting idea, interesting concept. And a lot of people from a pop science thing, they like to go around and collect these memories that people have that are different from the rest of us.
Yeah, and I agree with that. They kind of use narrative first. It's like a soft example of here's how it happened, or here's a story from one person about what happened. And then later they tie it to something like the Mandela effect, if I'm saying it right, where this is a phenomenon that's known in metaphysics or something that's been researched and commented on, and then connecting it to the larger narrative or the world at large.
Well, for the listeners to tell what it is, there's a significant group of people in the world who remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in South Africa. It's a huge population that believes that he died, even though he lived and he went on to become president of South Africa. They remember him dying. Now, people who put it down that say it's all just false memories because there was an anti-apartheid prisoner who did die in prison. But then, of course, believers would say, well, in their timeline, he actually survived, and so on. So that's why it's called the Mandela effect. And it's a large population that remember him dying, even though it was very, very his release in my timeline. It was a very significant, for those of us who are alive when he was released, that was significant. When he became president, that was very significant. And these folks don't even have a memory of that. And by the way, we're talking about people who were alive at that time. It wasn't like they just read about it. It's not theoretical. And then there's a lot of examples. Did Jiffy peanut butter exist when you were a child? Spoiler alert, in this timeline, there's never been a Jiffy peanut butter. It's always been Jif.
Interesting. Yeah. You got me. Because I was like, yeah, Jiffy. I've heard of Jiffy. No, there's Jif. There's not Jiffy.
Never existed.
In our timeline. You caught me. Yeah. And I was just thinking, it's funny, talking about Nelson Mandela, I have a synchronicity to share with you that's very, very specific to me in the sense that I didn't know who Nelson Mandela was growing up in the United States. I'm guilty. That's a terrible thing to say. I moved to Thailand, where I made friends with a woman from South Africa. She taught me who Nelson Mandela was. And then later we watched The Butterfly Effect together.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Which is kind of the same sort of principle, but not quite the same. It's going back in time and mentally changing the past through having kind of a vision or a dream. Or re-entering your previous body, I think, when you were a child and changing things. But anyway, it's very similar things. And I met both of those ideas from the same person. Thank you, Karin. Yeah. So let's see. We're looking at episode 6, where I think we're still talking about Defender. And we talked a little bit. There's actually images of that on the notes. And I wanted to bring that up because it's cool. They had pictures of the actual motherboard, like a legitimate motherboard, that they're saying, no, this is a Defender motherboard, but it's the only one that has the home version actually in the cabinet, which was a different game completely, but then it's called Defender 2. And I really liked, to me, that was something really special about, no, they went in and changed the code of one of those ancient motherboards on an arcade cabinet. And they were able to add like raster images in there, and they had a guy look at it, right? The guy who works on arcade games. And he's like, yeah, no, whoever did this is a masterpiece. There's no signs of alteration to this motherboard. So it kind of goes back to this idea
that it could be done, but I can't do it type thing. Like theoretically it's possible, but whoever did this
may be possible. Yeah, but it also kind of goes back into the time element where it's like, well, how did they get the photograph of Yumiko into the card?
Yeah.
And I thought that was just really, really cool, the whole aspect. And to me, there's just something about connecting it to video game arcades just gives it this huge element of cool. It's something like watching Tron or something, right? There's just this amazing cool factor of having video game arcade cabinets.
Yeah. Which is a fun, I think it's almost a trope at this point, with Ready Player One and
correct.
So on, really calling back to those times. And I don't know if that's like a Gen X nostalgia thing that we're all coming back to, because it is one of those specific experiences that aren't really around. I mean, they are now, but in kind of a vintage way. In Austin, there's this fun place that has all the old vintage, all the way up through to more recent.
Yeah.
But so it's fun to go in there, and it's like, and then you'll be like totally forgot about Qbert, and like, oh wow, see, how do you play this game? Yeah, and then it's so stupid now, but the whole big thing of Qbert was instead of up and down and right left, it turned the axes.
Yeah,
and so
when I was a little kid, that bended my mind. That's a really hard game. Yeah. We had that on the Nintendo Entertainment System. You could rent that at the local grocery store.
I learned it in the cabinet, the stand-up piece. I'm like,
I've played it on the cabinet. It's equally difficult. Yeah. Right. We have a chain in St. Louis. It's called the Down Up Bar. It's the Central West End, and it's like 2 levels of just arcade cabinets. It's really, really nice bar. And they have them all. They have like the Ninja Turtles. They have the original Mario Brothers. They have the Simpsons, Mortal Kombats. They have it all. And it's really fun to go in there. I think the nostalgia aspect is you hit the nail on the head. There's something
even
about
Rabbids, they reference Frogger, which is really kind of a stupid game.
It really
when it
is.
Came out.
Yeah. Yeah. We had that at Chuck E. Cheese, I remember, or like Showbiz or whatever it was called. And I played it, and I regretted putting the quarter in there. I was like, this game is terrible.
Yeah.
Frogger is so dumb. I just kind of
But
hate
I
it.
read somewhere that it inspired Donkey Kong.
Sure. No, it's like a huge step, I think, in the evolution of game development. I'm not saying it's not an important game. I'm just saying when you play it now, it's just kind of like, man,
Forward,
I should have played
backward,
Skee-Ball or something.
Forward, backward. You waste your money.
Right. Man, I could have played Michael Jackson and I'm playing this. Like, what? Like,
well, back to the arcade culture, when it first came out, for those of us of that age, the girls played Frogger.
Maybe that's
guys,
part of it.
Yeah. The guys are over here playing the Space Invaders and all those.
Right.
The girls played Pac-Man.
I'm not a male chauvinist, and I sort of identify as a lesbian, sort of, because it's like I like women, but I'm not like a macho man. But Frogger, no.
Yeah.
Can't do it. That's interesting. So talking about arcade culture, we're on episode 7 and it's called Arcadia. So that's actually a really good segue. Carly finds something while playing a game. Harper and Carly meet an eccentric do-it-yourselfer Spook. Carly and Jones visit Arcadia and Marigold has another message. So this is when they went far north to Alaska. Am I correct there? Yeah. What did you make of that? Finding the ring of old cars, and it wasn't there that stone. There was a stone in the middle.
Which I believe actually exists. I remember hearing about it years ago when I was up in Reno. There's this weird car thing, which is odd because cars are extremely valuable in Reno because you can't drive there. Everything has to come up on the ferry. So from a writer's perspective, I think it's an homage to an experience and sort of this weird mystery. But from a reader's perspective or listener's perspective, this huge jump that now we're going to Alaska and back in what?
Yeah, Reno's in Nevada, right? Am I wrong? You're talking about Reno, Nevada, right?
No. Arcadia up in Juneau, Alaska.
You said Juneau. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. If I said Reno, then that was a different timeline.
That must have been it.
But Juneau, in Alaska, you can't get.
Okay.
You can't drive to it because it's land, there's just no roads in. So how did all these cars? Or I shouldn't say how they get there. We know they came by ferry, but it'd be extremely expensive to just junk all these cars out in the middle of nowhere. So I never saw it.
So there's a significance there I wasn't aware of. Yeah. Okay.
But again, it's like several of these, the references, and so hopefully we'll do this for season 2. So there's some very specific ones that are in Nevada that it's like, crap, I've been in that right where the cave is supposed to be and stuff. So because of that experience, then I know, and then like I said, I heard about this thing in Juneau. I didn't know it had a weird spiritual thing, whatever that stone was or whatever they found, that artifact. I didn't know anything about that. I just remember there's this installation of wrecked cars in the middle of freak nowhere in the wilderness.
I love that.
Yeah.
From what I recall, though, the stone moves around, right? Because Arcadia is sort of wherever this mystical stone is. Yeah. And I don't recall the name of it right now. It had a very specific
It might be
name.
one of those, so you don't go looking for it. Because there's been novels like this in the past, and then everybody descends on a space looking for an artifact, and then the local residents have to put up with all these fans digging through their garbage and stuff. Which, I'll just say it here because we'll say it again. So Picture Canyon, I believe this is in season 2, I believe is cut off from the public right now. I believe it's a conservation area. At least when I lived out there, they were threatening to cordon it off.
That's awesome. They keep out the fringers, or the fringe people.
But now people be hiking in and dying in the desert because it's a 3-hour hike in or something. Got to be responsible.
Right.
I just found it was odd, the whole Alaska piece. And then they got up there and back so quickly. But again, the format is it's a podcast staying under under 50 minutes broadcast time. So there's a lot to cover in this episode in a short time to start building toward the end. So, because we have 3 more episodes to the ending. So this is typical, like on a Netflix type show. There's the setup. It's usually season 7 or 8 in a 10 episode. Episode 7 or 8 in a 10 episode. We have to set everything up and then do a mad dash to the ending. And so that's what this feels like to me. There's so much going on that, again, something I re-listened to that episode in anticipation for here, because I was like, okay, what do we do? There's a lot going on.
I was just thinking that, what is this DIY spook? Was that guy who he's in his apartment and he has all those computer monitors hooked up and he can listen to all parts of the city?
Yeah.
Or what's happening in this episode?
Is that the recording guy? Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah. She sends a recording too.
That was really, really interesting because he's just like a fan. He's almost just a Rabbits fan. But he has in the whole back room of his warehouse, the whole wall is covered with monitors. And he has basically this elaborate system of computers that are foreshadowing AI, right? They're kind of just analyzing all of this audio, looking for anomalies.
Yeah.
So and he's not even playing Rabbits. He's just a guy who's a fan.
Guy. And then, and
he's got all that potential, all that knowledge, and he's not even playing. So it just kind of pushes the players up a notch. You know what I mean? He's like a foil for their ability and their intelligence, I think, making them seem much greater than we thought they were before.
And what's here. Yeah.
Right. Another thing I'd like to bring up with the Alaska thing, kind of similar to what you mentioned, was whenever that happens, I'm like, where do these people get the money? Like, she's like a reporter who like used to draw pictures for comic books, and like, how come she's just like dropping everything and going to Alaska?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess she's a reporter, but I don't know. It just seems like where does the money come from?
Yeah, she flew up there, and it's interesting that they keep getting 2 rooms every time. Why didn't they just check in the hotel? Like, why is that so important from a narrative standpoint that they keep having to say, we got 2 rooms, we got 2 rooms everywhere?
Yeah, and maybe to highlight the fact that there's no romantic connection between them.
Yeah. And then there's a new character introduced, but it's only for this teeny little segment. She doesn't talk, so they have to do sign language, and she's driving and doing sign language. So I just have to think that this is significant for the writer, because it doesn't help the story, really. It doesn't move the story along.
Yeah.
And then introducing all these characters that, again, might be in the novel that aren't here. So I'll know in a month or so.
And I'll point out that I didn't go back and re-listen to episode 7 like you did, and I completely forgot them, right? Because it's like you said, it's not really part of the story. They're not especially memorable. And I feel like there is a little bit of critique around that. If you read some of the comments around the show, it seems like you either love the show or you hate it. There's a lot of people who are like, I listen to this every year. And then you have the other people that are like, I don't know, I listened to the first few episodes and the writing's kind of poor and the acting's worse.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was pretty well written. Obviously, I think responding to it with a podcast. Yeah.
For a podcast.
Yeah. To put all this effort into it, I feel like the production value was pretty high.
Yeah. And then even going through it, like if I were listening to this, like this, I've waited 2 weeks for this to come out, and this came along, I think there'd be a lot of questions and anticipation.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's that one just before the build, before the rush to the end.
Right.
And the Hollywood script thing, it's called the blue light scene from the original Top Gun, where everything's about to explode, that he takes a time out for the romantic interlude where her house is all lit up in blue and stuff. So there's always that rest before the launch for the final.
The calm before the storm.
Yeah. Even though we're all saying, dude, you got all this stuff going on. Don't waste your time. You can shack up with her later.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty romantic. Yeah. It's just kind of like, there's all this heavy stuff. He's like, I need some catharsis in my life. I'm going to go hook up with this lady.
Yeah. So that's
kind of what
7's just kind of take a rest, and then we'll get launching.
Let's take a deep breath and then look at episode 8. It's called Elysian Drift. I feel like this was a pretty intense one. There was a lot happening here. Carly and Jones visit a reclusive billionaire who you mentioned earlier, who appears to know a whole lot more than he's letting on, and Carly begins to seriously consider the fact that rabbits might be much more than just a game.
Yeah. So she's
Yeah.
finally realizing it here that
Yeah.
this is
That
something
connection.
more.
Yeah. And then the reclusive billionaire. I wanted to ask more about that character because you had kind of mentioned him earlier. This isn't the magician though. This is someone else who has a lot of money and a lot of information on the game.
Well, and he won, was it 7 or something? He
Yeah.
won one of them. And that's
Yeah.
the idea, is that the reason he's wealthy is because he was a winner. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
there's room here, because when I was going through it the first time, then that's where I was thinking the winners of previous winners are like setting this up. Because when do we hear the name with the book, the library book? So that was checked out by a previous winner and so on. And
Right.
so where I thought it was going, that so going back to the D&D reference, that these were like the game masters. Like once you're in the inner circle, or in the circle, not the inner circle, but the circle, then maybe now you're manipulating the game.
You're running the game now. Yeah,
which
that's
we
part of the
find
winning.
out in the next episode, probably not. But
Not necessarily. Right.
he ends up in the
Yeah.
hospital in a coma, so evidently he's not doing too good.
Right. He's having a rough time. Well, I liked this too because when I went to the notes, I felt a little bit disoriented. So there were images of the passenger pigeon when you go to the notes of
Yeah.
Elysian Drift. And I know I thought that was near the beginning of the show. And that really speaks to how I just binged the hell out of the show in one weekend. That I don't really remember what things in what episode very well because I just rushed
that was
right
in
through it.
5. I think she went
Right.
in 5.
Right. So the pigeon's brought up here because of the number 6878.
Yeah.
So there's a number of things like the spool of thread, I think. So do you want to talk about the passenger pigeons? You said that was brought up in 5 and we kind of skipped over that.
Yeah, because it was one of those where I don't think it was ever resolved for me, besides the whole 6878 on its toe. So what I'm wondering, if the author just went out and found out every reference to 6878 in the world, because even the book that's in the library, the whole significance of it is not the whatever it is. Something in the textile industry, Secret Life and something adventures in the textile. So it's not the book; it's the reference number. So it felt like later, because I was waiting around for what's with the deal with the passenger pigeons.
Well, I have a theory on that. I don't. It's never stated in the show, but the more I thought about it, in the narrative, the passenger pigeons did a special task, right? They were trained, they had like a special knowledge, almost a secret right. But then the fact that they all died, aren't they extinct now? There was one left. And then it died. So for me, that was sort of foreshadowing, if we don't win the game and Carly doesn't shift the universe, then the outcome could be that the human race all passes away. And I just felt like this was a soft nudge towards the concept of, the human race going extinct.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a loose thing, but to me it was related.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Yeah, and then I'm curious why 6878.
I don't think it is. Yeah, I feel like it's just like an Easter egg that's like empty. It's like you find one of the eggs and like there's nothing in it.
Yeah. It was like, I shared with you like my power number, secret number, or whatever. That's what I get to feel like.
Maybe it's at the end of season 2, which I haven't listened to yet.
Yeah, the author was born on the 8th of June in 1978.
Yeah, I feel like there's a number of those. There's just total misdirects, you know? I think it just kind of starts to wear you down. Like you said, all the random characters that come up, that might be part of it. It might be part of the style of writing, right? Where you're trying to sift through all the information for what's relevant. Like,
I'm sure people have discussed it on Reddit if I had taken the time. There's an answer.
Right. And they probably just chalk it up to poor writing, which is what I keep reading.
I bet it's a birthday, so.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's the end of someone's social security number or something.
Yeah, there you go. Or phone number, yeah. They keep making a deal about phone numbers.
Yeah.
Shoot.
I feel like we're kind of getting closer to something called the signposts too, right? Where we're looking at this number 6878. And the point really is that there's a coincidence here to show that you're on track.
Yeah.
Right. And
which is which is important, like in game design too. It's a huge mechanic of signposting. So especially in an open game such as this, so it's the way to draw players toward something. So using like an RPG, especially a large open field, or what was the original something that I had written down earlier, that really without signposting, then players can get lost. And so that's where this 6878 comes in, and that's why we keep. And what's cool about it, in the that this doesn't really mean anything, what's cool about it from a novel's perspective is to create something that really doesn't have any meaning in and of itself, except that it's a signpost.
Yeah, that in itself makes it relevant.
Yeah, it's not like 42 or something. It's in and of itself. It's just a 4 numbers.
Is that the answer to the meaning of life?
Yeah.
Love it. I was driving over the weekend to central Missouri, and I was going to a place called the Resurgence, where there's a bunch of sinkholes and water falls into them, and then it pumps it out through the side of a cliff. That's completely irrelevant. But when I was driving down, I saw my birthday on the side of the road because it was the address of the house. And it just like kind of jumped out and bit me. And I feel like that's because I was listening to this show. The concept that you need to be aware of these things. You need to listen to them. You need to add value to them. And then you'll be put on this path that's leading to like kind of a higher, I don't know what to say, higher energy or a higher awareness. And that's where I think the faith of this all comes in. And it starts to go into more of the wooey kind of religious things, our spiritual things you were talking about earlier. But I also really like it. I feel like I had a phase where I lived like that, when I was younger in college, where it's like, if you start connecting dots and finding meaning in things, it just enriches your life. It enriches your experience, whether it's real or not. It just makes things a little bit heightened, a little bit more fun. Does that resonate with you, or am I just going way too out there for you?
No, especially when we're younger, or at least in my case. Because looking at this and talking through this, like I can imagine in my 20s, I would have been way more trippy on this than I am at this stage of life. Like,
fair.
Wow.
Same.
And but when you say that everything had significance and meaning, and I think the difference now is I'm probably not the center of the universe like I was.
Well, there's that.
Everything needs to be working for me, toward me.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point, right? Yeah. And do you have to be the center of the universe for everything to have meaning to you also, right? There's a double side to that maybe.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be complete narcissism. If I'm looking at my experience and looking at all the signposts that are just my experience, to me, I like to be in that vein where this is enriching my life. And I feel like I'm kind of tapping into maybe part of the point that I'm trying to make with this show Game Layer, and the sense that it's always there. The game layer is always there. It's, do you want to tap into it or not? Do you want to find joy in this moment and have a holy moment? Or do you want to just sit and do your taxes, or just sit and balance your checkbook and life sucks and everything's gray? I think we have that choice in every moment of everything we do. Maybe you do your checkbook with a colored pen, or you use different colored pens and you just like that. There's no actual real value to that, to using a glitter pen. Yeah. But, if it makes you happy, if you like telling people that you're a man who considers himself to be a lesbian, if that's fun for you, then just do it. Go for it. Like, what the hell? Yeah. So I kind of went on a tangent there, but I feel like I like that concept of, no, I'm going to not postpone joy. I'm going to not make sense. I'm going to listen to the talking heads, and life's going to be better.
Well, and on the signposting then too is finding that way of
finding that way,
or instead of getting caught in the details, then put your eyes up to find the signposts, so that we're not just doing the checkbook and then we totally miss the signpost.
Well, I say I'm just driving out in central Missouri. I can go back to that story where we went to the Resurgence. It's a weird geological anomaly. It's rare that it happens, but there's one in central Missouri. We went there years ago in the middle of the winter, and the whole cliff was covered with ice because that water that goes into the earth gets pumped back up, and then there's just this seeping of water constantly. So we went there, and then we kind of lost it. It's kind of like we got busy with life. We had kids, and my wife's like, I want to go to that place, and I couldn't find it. And so it's just like, yeah, I can't find it. Let's just go, continue with our life. So I feel like now that I'm back into this idea of following signposts, I'm like, no, let's find that place. So I did some research. I actually found the place and we drove there. So then seeing my birthday on someone's mailbox, it was like, no, I'm on track.
Yeah, it's a sign.
So this idea that, there's a sign, my birthday is on that mailbox, that's connected to me. I'm on the right path. That's this idea that there's this synchronicity that I'm building up energy and I'm moving better to the better version of myself.
Yeah. And how cool it would have been if there was an Elysian drift and it no longer exists.
That would have been great. Yeah. Actually, we went there and it was absolute crap. So it was like, because it was it's the middle of summer. It's there, but so it wasn't covered in ice, right? We went there. My daughter got bit by mosquitoes and everyone got scratched with all these weeds that weren't there in the winter. So it was a completely different experience.
Yeah.
And then we're like, well, let's just go drive to a river we know about. And we had a phenomenal time there. So yeah, I don't know. It's things connect, right? And I think that's the idea of signposts is you don't just stop, you keep going. And I'm definitely getting into season 2 with the way cards here. So we'll talk about that later, right?
We'll film another one for that one. That's what I like better.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's get a group together for that one. We'll get several people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We're talking about episode 9 now. It's actually called Hazel. So in this episode, Carly and Jones dig further into the mysterious Gatwick Institute, and another conversation with Alan Scarpio reveals more about the game and the enigmatic figure known as Hazel. I want to say Alan Scarpio is that billionaire we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
or am I
was
wrong?
looking for his name earlier. That's the billionaire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I like that character more and more the more I think about him. He's a billionaire that knows a lot about rabbits and he's almost a previous winner, right? So he's like a step up from the magician, right? He knows a lot. He's loaded. He has that safety.
Well, and then he's the one
that,
because he has the answers. He does not say it in episode 9. He says it earlier, but it's like it doesn't. Well, maybe it is 9. Yeah, he says it doesn't work that way. You have to figure it out yourself. Yeah, because it's in reference to who Hazel is. Yeah, because he sets up the discovery of Hazel in this episode.
Right.
That's what it is. And
Yeah.
he knows. And then that's where listening to this again, then it makes sense. His relationship to another character, why he says, I'll only meet with you alone, because he knows all along who Hazel is. And yeah, so that was cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it was a good episode, and I like this one.
Yeah. I feel like this is where we get more information on the Gatwick Institute, and we really find out that this is how the result happened to the offspring of the test subjects.
Yeah.
Right.
Which they reference earlier, or it's a theory earlier, but it seems more so here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cycled back on that.
Yeah, they really dig into it here and kind of explore the meaning of it.
Yeah, I wonder, again, curious from a writer's perspective.
Right. Yeah, definitely. All right. And then we're moving up closer. We're getting closer and closer to the lighthouse. And we're here at episode 10. And how did you like how that was delivered? Was that a nice surprise for you when we find out what the lighthouse
liked
is?
it. Yeah, because I could see where it let a lot of people down. But I like the idea that people are going around searching for lighthouses and then narrowing it down. And then that it's not it's the lighthouse.
Like an artist and his last name is Light. Yeah.
So it was like, oh, that's an interesting twist. I mean, I don't know how I feel about the whole ending and everything, but to have that mystery of we've been looking this way. And again, if this were a novel, not episodic like it is, and then the limitations of podcasting and so on, I can imagine this constant search for lighthouses and which lighthouse. And in fact, in the notes on on their website, they have all these different lighthouses and the different steps.
That's what I was going to say. There's all these pictures of lighthouses.
Yeah, from the boat dock to here, I could see this being like if you're if you're actually in the game, how much time you would waste on going to lighthouses and counting steps.
Right.
So that was interesting. And then being a kind of like a eyes wide shut type party and stuff like that. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, really weird. All the masquerades, all the different hats, or the different masks. And then it was almost like you said, like the ending was a little bit maybe taboo or a little over the top with Yumiko wearing a rabbit's mask.
Yeah.
I felt like it was just kind of perfect. It just was like almost a little bit too beautiful.
Yeah.
Or over romanticized. I don't know what your feelings were.
She's alive. Yeah. Doesn't remember anything.
She doesn't remember anything. Right.
So I looked up, I thought, well, who's this? What was his first name? Arthur Light. And the only thing I could find about him is he's a bit character in not the Marvel, what's the other one? Batman and Superman.
The DC comics?
DC Comics, yeah. So he's villain inside of there. That's his whole thing is light, so he can wrap light around him to become invisible, and he can do all this stuff with light and stuff like that. So somebody's way into DC Comics and choosing. There is, as far as I can find, there's no Arthur Light that's an architect in Canada. So anyway, it was kind of I imagine another homage to that.
Yeah. The show really did a good job of tying a lot of different types of pop culture together.
Yeah.
Right. I think everyone maybe thinks sometimes he tried a little bit too hard, or it was a bit of a stretch, but I do like that. I like how it weaves in like real people with a lot of references from pop culture.
Yeah. And I imagine, I haven't taken the time, but all the stuff about that island, imagine it's important to the author. So on. So it was kind of cool. But but it wrapped, I guess, in a good way, like we could wrap it all up from being drugged or whatever. So it could be this, or perhaps it's this other piece out there. And I think that's probably where it needs to go. Especially if he didn't know that there would be a season 2.
Right.
Needs a finale. It needs a wrap that's rational with, maybe it's not.
Yeah. And I was just wondering if that happened in season 2 or at the end of season 1. I feel like part of it happened at the end of season 1, but that was a question I sort of had. Is the universe sort of covering up what happened to protect the concept of the game? Is that why you think all of the hallucinogens were introduced and all of a sudden the Gatwick Institute is not
it's just a game
experiment? It's just a game company.
Yeah, they used to do LARPs and now they're doing whatever, VR or something like that.
Right. So
it's kind of that, this goes back 100 years when I taught creative writing, and there was all of us have told the story, written the story, the fictional story that ends, and then I woke up, or then the character woke up. So it's something in our development that towards the end of puberty, so right around 18, we all write this story that it had all been a dream type story.
Wow.
And because it drove me nuts, because I was teaching, his first year course and creative writing.
And everyone's writing that story.
I'd just start, you'd be like 3 paragraphs and you're like, oh my God, it's going to say, and then they woke up. It had all been a dream. Because, I'm sure, I'm not sure. I am sure that I wrote that same story.
Right.
But what you're alluding to is the idea that it needs to be covered up so that we can start this version of the game needs to wrap and then because there's those gaps between games that are significant. And so for whatever reason this is, which we don't know, it's a mystery, but we feel like that the reason for this is almost kind of, wasn't Inception, it was another movie came out about the same time. about the idea was there were these kind of watchers that were always making sure the universe was put into place. So it's that kind of thing where this reset, that this timeline gets off, and this game puts it back into place so that if it doesn't go all nicely together, then therefore they didn't do their job. And that was a reference through all of this, was that at the game 9, everything was off and they needed to get it back together. So that the ending does tag in to say, we got the world back together the way it needs to be.
Yeah, and the wardens have a lot of heavy lifting, right? The people in gray have a lot of work to do. Because something's off. And then at the end of season 1, we believe that Carly has won level 9, that we got everything back into place.
Yeah.
But then at the beginning of season 2, we're not so sure if that really happened.
Yeah. I'm critical of that, but anyway, that's for another season.
That's for another episode. Right?
Yeah. But why not? Yeah. Why not let her run a victory lap? So,
yeah. And that's a good question. I feel like I need more closure on that, and that kind of bothered me when season 2 starts to open. But like we said, let's talk about that on another episode.
Yeah. But that's where the ending was the right ending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Season 1 ended pretty well, but I feel like there was a lot of harsh criticism online that I read about. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good ending for.
Well, I think the I didn't
10 episodes.
Dive into the criticism. I imagine that I didn't read a lot of it, but to me, it felt like it was just because it was so successful. And then if it had not been, it would not have gotten the criticism, you know? So it's those people who like to rain on someone else's parade. And it's like, well, if you could do better, why aren't you producing a
top level podcast? Yeah. Number 1 views. Well, it's interesting because the show is kind of compared to Lost. It's creative in the same ways that the television series Lost was. Then the ending of that was also harshly criticized.
Yeah.
And they were kind of similar. It was just, let's just wrap it up with purgatory, or let's just wrap it up with, she reached the lighthouse. Like, why not? I don't know. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
yeah. Well, this has been really fun. Thanks so much for joining me this afternoon for recording this episode of Game Layer. Jonathan, appreciate your time.
Always fun.
Yeah.
So
I've had you on a previous episode. Go back and listen to episode 2 if you haven't already, and you'll get to know Jonathan a little bit better. I don't need to ask you the standard questions because we've already done that.
But that'd be different in this timeline.
Yeah, so in this timeline, what game could you not live without if you had only one game to play for the rest of your life? It was Othello last time we recorded, but you might have slipped by now.
No, it'll be number 9. It'll be the rabbits.
Yeah, I'm definitely addicted. There's a thing. I'm kind of not looking forward to when I run out of episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not fun. I did. Yeah, and you'll see there's season 3 up there, but it isn't. There's no season 3. I was disappointed.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm sure that was intentional. Well, great.
Love it.
Thanks so much for your time. I don't want to hold you any longer than I have to. And thanks again. I'll see you when you see me.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Game Layer. This is David Colmer reminding you to stay present and never postpone joy. You can find transcripts of the show at gamelayer.fm. GAMELAYER.fm. Theme music by Kayla Willits. Thanks for listening. Now go. Play.
I play chess.
I play Scrabble.
I play fauteuil.
I play everything. Hide and seek with my kids.
I play the piano.
I play board games.
I play guitar.
I smash it on the pitch.
I play chess.
I play Othello.
I play all the Marios.
I play Success Strategist.
I play Street Fighter.
Final Fantasy.
I play games of my own invention. Games of my own invention. Games of my own invention. Games of my own invention.
There are many ways to play. Going for a walk together, doing nothing together is also playing. Anything that can cultivate your feeling of joy, relaxation, where you feel more recharged after doing that thing. And I think you can consider as something that we play with. I'd like to move to the domain of play